Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tatati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today I am going to be talking from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, verses 33 and 34. So I am in no way a qualified person to be talking about these verses in particular. This is also my first sort of Srimad Bhagavatam class, but I'm doing this simply as a service, and also I'm doing this for my dad because he's unable to make it today. So please forgive me if I make any mistakes, and yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to be reading these two verses, right? 33 and 34. They have relatively short purports, and translations are also kind of straightforward and go with the flow. So I'm going to read the Sanskrit translation and purport for the both of them, and then we can probably talk about the what is the message in these verses. So I am going to start reading. Let me share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay. Uh, Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamutirayet nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so let's read this verse. Ditistu vruditatena karma vadyena bharata upasangamya viprarshim ado mukhyai abhyasata. Translation. O son of the Bharata family, Diti, after this, went nearer to her husband, her face lowered because of her faulty action. She spoke as follows. Purport. When one is ashamed of an abominable action, one naturally becomes downfaced. Diti came to her senses after the abominable sexual intercourse with her husband. Such sexual intercourse is condemned as prostitution. In other words, sex life with one's wife is equal to prostitution if the regulations are not properly followed. Text 34. Titir uvacha name garbham imam brahman bhutanam rishabho vadit rudra patir hi bhutanam yasya karvam amhasam. Translation. The beautiful Diti said, My dear Brahmana, kindly see that my embryo is not killed by Lord Shiva, the Lord of all living entities, because of the great offense I have committed against him. Purport. Diti was conscious of her offense and was anxious to be excused by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has two popular names, Rudra and Ashutosha. He is very prone to anger as well as quickly pacified. Diti knew that because of his being quickly angered, he might spoil the pregnancy she had so unlawfully achieved. But because he was also Ashutosha, she implored her Brahmana husband to help her in pacifying Lord Shiva, for her husband was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. In other words, Lord Shiva might have been angry with Diti because she obliged her husband to transgress the law, but he would not refuse her husband's prayers. Therefore, the application for excuse was submitted through her husband. She prayed to Lord Shiva as follows. Okay. So these two verses are kind of like a platform for the 35th verse and beyond, because from that point onwards is where Diti technically talks about that's when she gets started with explaining what she did was a mistake, and she starts praising Lord Shiva and goes from there. But I don't want to get too much into those verses because I'm sure other devotees will be talking about them later onwards. But within the scope of these two verses, if we go to text 33, 33 is where she realizes that what she did was honestly a big mistake, because in the context of this chapter, what has happened until now is that Diti is the daughter of Daksha, who is a Prajapati, and Kashyapa Muni is the son of Marichi, who is also one of the original sons of Lord Brahma. So Kashyapa Muni is a very, very, very powerful personality, and he has been focusing on meditation. And earlier in this verse, Diti sort of has a desire to have children, and it is natural for many families in the Grihastha household. And I believe in verse 10 she explicitly says that she has been struck by Cupid's arrows, and that is, I'm just, as you can see over here, I'm sure this verse was discussed earlier. In that place, the beautiful Diti expressed her desire, O learned one, Cupid is taking my arrows and distressing me forcibly as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. And she explicitly gives this analogy stating that she is almost like that of a mad elephant. So that kind of shows her strong desire to have children. However, in this verse, Srila Prabhupada has two extremely powerful statements, honestly. And this is the last two sentences of this purport are the two extremely strong statements where he says, such sexual intercourse. What is the such sexual intercourse? That is referring to an abominable sexual intercourse. That is what Srila Prabhupada means by such sexual intercourse, is condemned as prostitution. In other words, sex life with one's wife is equal to prostitution and is the most important part if the regulations are not properly followed. And in today's day and age, and that too coming from a brahmachari who is not a grahastha, I do not have much of a say in this sort of lifestyle as yet. But I can definitely say this, that regulations are extremely important. And in today's day and age, where if wherever we go outside of the house, it can be anywhere, it can be especially in university life, I can say for sure that illicit sex is extremely common. And it is common to a point where people just talk about it openly and they have no sort of guilt or shame whatsoever. And in this sort of situation, in this chapter, Diti, who technically wanted to have children with her husband, is feeling bad even though she is in a grihastha lifestyle, she understood that what she did was wrong because the regulations were not properly followed. Now, what regulation in here was not properly followed? It is the time, the auspicious time, and the circumstance. In the previous verse, Kashyapa Muni, in fact, gives a sort of warning. He tells her, hey, just be a little patient. Once right now is usually the time when Lord Shiva is kind of wandering around, and there are lots of ghosts and demons, and they even refer to pishashas, which who are present in the time period. So you have to wait for a little longer, and once that is over, I can definitely sort of satisfy your desire. Unfortunately, she could not resist, and she had to get going. And that is the sort of mistake which happened in this verse. The regulation was not properly followed. The regulations are in fact extremely important for all the classes of humans, be it brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, and even shudras. And even amongst these, the four stages in life, the brahmacharis, the grihastha, and vanaprastha stage, and of course sannyas. There are rules that need to be maintained amongst each of these divisions. A brahmachari is supposed to be maintain a celibate lifestyle and abstain from any sort of sexual life, and they need to focus only on studying the scriptures and in advancing their knowledge of the scriptures. Pretty much, that is also a stage where I'm in, and I can point to thousands of people all over the world, all devotees who are also in this lifestyle, the brahmachari lifestyle. And of course, there are many grahastha devotees, and sexual intercourse is in fact a part of grahastha lifestyle, and it is in fact scripturally endorsed. It is technically a service to the Lord. However, this is where it comes again. The regulations, they need to be maintained. There are rules that need to be followed. Otherwise, like Srila Prabhupada said, sex life with one's life is equal to prostitution. So we need to be very careful about making sure that we are doing our very best, even within the Grihastha lifestyle, to follow the rules and regulations. Otherwise, it would end up being prostitution. Or unfortunately, that is the case mentioned here, which is what Srila Prabhupada says. And if we move on to the next verse, in this verse, Diti is talking about Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva is a very interesting personality in in this universe, cosmic manifestation, wherever we talk about it. And the reason we say that is because he is a very, very powerful personality. He is the topmost of Vaishnavas, and most importantly, Srila Prabhupada and even Diti, for the matter of fact, are using this particular name of Lord Shiva called Ashutosha. He is also known as Rudra. Yes, he has a third eye. He is the person to destroy the universe when it is time for the cosmic annihilation. However, Ashutosha is a very specific name given to Lord Shiva. Why? Because of his characteristic or his sort of trait. And what is that trait? He is very prone to anger, and at the same time, he's easily pacified. It's kind of like a coin. You have both sides of the coin, and it's equally possible for you to land on either side. I'm a studying statistician, so that is why I gave this example of a coin, because we have a as much as you can land on heads, it is also possible for you to land on tails. In other words, I'm not sure if this is the perfect analogy to give here, but I kind of thought of it in this way. Lord Shiva is very prone to anger, but he's also quickly pacified. So we need to be extremely careful, whoever it is, they have to be extremely careful as to not to get into his bad side, because it is very easy to get there. But at the same time, he's also quickly pacified, and he can be easily satisfied. So it is possible to get to the other side as well. As devotees, as Vaishnavas, we want to get his blessings. So it is very, very crucial for us to fall on his nice side, because if we manage to anger him in any way or move on to the angry side, that's going to be a very, very bad sort of mark on our spiritual progress. And since he is the topmost Vaishnava, we need blessings from such great personalities to move on and to proceed further. So, back to the context of this verse, why is Diti talking in this way? Talking in the way as in, why is she praying that to why is she asking Kashyapa Muni that her embryo is not killed by Lord Shiva? One, because Lord Shiva is extremely powerful. If he is angry, which in this case she's afraid that he could be because of the fact that she engaged in a sexual intercourse during a not so favorable time. During that sort of situation, she's extremely scared that Lord Shiva might be offended and he might destroy the embryo within her womb. And because of that, she is asking Kashyapa Muni to excuse her of her offense. Why Kashyapa Muni in particular? Because Kashyapa Muni is in fact a devotee of Lord Shiva, and as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport right over here, her husband was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and he says this in a very interesting way. Srila Prabhupada says that she kind of submits an application for her excuse. I know it's the word application might seem a little out of context here, because this is not technically an application. We're not like filling out forms and giving it to like some government office or anything, but application is an interesting word here, because technically that is what's happening at the end of the day. She is kind of petitioning, or she is kind of sending a plea for apologies to Lord Shiva, not directly to Lord Shiva, but through her husband, who is a great devotee of the Lord and even Lord Shiva, for the matter of fact. So the point here is that since Lord Shiva has two sides, his angry side and the pacified side, the nice, the very pleased side, it is, even if he does fall under the angry side, she can definitely get out of his sort of bad side or his angry side by offering prayers, especially prayers or a plea or an apology through her husband Kashyapa Muni. So that is the most important part of this verse. And Lord Shiva, going back to this Ashatosha name of Lord Shiva, there are many situations within Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Shiva has displayed this characteristic, especially the easily and quickly pacified side. For instance, I'm gonna make a reference to a pastime which happens later in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vrikasura, where he prays to Lord Shiva and he gets a benediction where whoever's head he touches, it explodes into pieces. That is Lord Shiva did not know what to do, but since he's quickly pacified, he had to give that benediction, that boon right away. Or even Ravana, for the matter of fact, after he destroyed his brother Kubera in battle, and he was flying on his Pushpaka Vimana all over the world or all over the universe. He went to Kailash and he easily angered Lord Shiva, and he tried to fight him, which was a very, very bad idea. You do not want to fight the person who is responsible for destroying the universe. That's a very bad idea. And he lost, and he had to do something. He had to pray to Lord Shiva. Otherwise, he's going to be in an extremely messy situation. So he prayed to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is quickly pacified. He forgave him, and he even gave him some benedictions. That is this verse, Ashtosha. Although Ravana used this characteristic of Lord Shiva for his own sort of selfish use, Diti is Diti is trying to also use this characteristic, but not in a selfish manner, but to protect her and her family from the mistake or from the grave offense that she has committed, which is why she wants to get this sort of application for excuse through her husband. And later onwards, I don't want to go too much into the next verse, but in the next verse, Srila Prabhupada says Diti is very clever. And although the word clever has a negative connotation to it, that is truly the case because she knows that he is quickly pacified and easily angered. So she assumes that he's already angry, and how can he not be angry? Well, you can ask through her husband, being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, please. I should not have done this, but I was not in a proper state of mind. Please forgive me. Please accept. Please ask Lord Shiva for my apologies and all." And in the next verse, Diti specifically talks about how if Lord Shiva wants, he can destroy my embryo, but at the same time, he can also like preserve it. He can also save it from destruction if he so desires. That is why Srila Prabhupada says Diti is very clever in the way she prays to Lord Shiva, or in the way she sort of submits her application for excuse or her apologies. So that is all I have for these two verses, because I feel like later onwards, this chapter gets very, very interesting, and more going a little ahead into what happens in this canto. Yes, at the end of the day, because of the unlawful time of sexual intercourse, she is gonna have to like, give birth to two demon children, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, who end up being who end up being killed by the personality of Godhead. And that is the sort of benedictions she gets, along with the sort of curse. And it's not a curse, but it's like the negative and the positive kind of balance out. And the next chapter, not the next chapter, but the chapter coming along in this canto goes straight to the gatekeepers in Vaikunta, Jaya and Vijaya, and how the Kumaras want to go see the personality of Godhead, and how they stop them, and as a result they get cursed, and the Lord himself exits the chambers of his of Vaikunta, and he comes and talks and meets the Kumaras personally, and he takes this sort of offense of them not allowing the Kumaras in as a mistake he himself committed. That is the personality of Godhead. And later onwards, they take birth, and we see the chapters where there is an incredible battle between Lord Boar, Lord Varaha, and Hiranyaksha. So there's a lot more interesting verses coming along, but this is kind of the platform which sets all of these things up coming later onwards in this canto. So yeah, that's all I have for these two verses. And I'm sure I might have been rambling a lot of things, and I may have made some mistakes here and there. So please forgive me if I have made any mistakes. And if anyone has any sort of comments or any where I can improve in any way, please let me know. But that's all I have for now.
Hare Krishna, Vachaspathy. Please
Hare Krishna,
accept my
Mataji.
humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept mine.
It's a 4.0. Very nice to hear from you first time, but you did exceptionally well. So glad. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vachaspathy.
Hare
Please
Krishna,
accept my
Mataji.
humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept mine too. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
That was very impressive to see you give a class. Is this your first one?
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure if it was good for a class, but I just tried to discuss some of the pointers or whatever I found to be interesting in these two verses. I don't know if it really is like a class sort of thing.
Well, it's a discussion
Of
basically.
course,
But
yes.
yeah, I mean, it's not an easy topic to talk on. And that was very nicely presented. Yeah, hopefully see you more often.
I hope so. I hope I get a call after this.
Yes, you are. All right, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Uh, okay. I'm not sure if we have anything else, so we can probably call it off for today. I think Lakshmikanta Prabhu is a little busy right now, but if no one has anything else, then we can probably close the call for today. Okay, let's it was great talking and reading Srimad Bhagavatam together with all of you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.